Thank you.
No problem. Anybody have any questions about how that works in Create a Reference? Did you like it? Does it look cool? Do you think you're going to be able to use it? Yep, okay. I'm going to go back to share. Closed captioning, and as I scroll around, it's going to give me other concepts that are related to it. Closed captioning will take me to other ones, hearing loss. But more importantly, as I'm playing around with those, the articles change. All right, so this is where you get the background information. And you can start taking notes about, oh, if there's somebody who's really big in the field and their name pops up, you might want to note that. Or somebody's done a big study on it. This is a great place to start. All right, I am going to go back. Where did I get this one? I'm gonna go back just to accessibility. Let's see, assistive technology. And as I scroll down, you can see that these are like encyclopedias on the right. But as I scroll underneath the mind map, it says more library sources. What Credo is doing is actually searching a whole bunch of databases at once. So the first one that comes up is Academic Search Complete. And it says, it gives you 3, but if you click on See All Results, there's going to be a lot of different articles here. Maybe too many. It's slowing down. Come on. I'm gonna go back. Then Academic One file, Gale Literature Resource Center, Gale in Context. There's lots of different ProQuest. So all of these are actual articles that if I click on, we can get to. Where did I get this one? Gale Academic One file. There is, I wanted to show you isn't that funny? I found a really good article yesterday that I have in print that's not showing up right now. And it's called Do-It-Yourselfers Lead Way to Accessibility Gains. And it was in the New York Times newspaper, August 10th, 2020. And it talks about, this is where the cultural aspects that you were talking about in, I think it's in another topic area. But this article is really good about how sometimes people, some people try to make technology to take care of a problem that doesn't exist. And one of the examples here was coming up with a new cane for people with vision problems. And there have been lots and lots of different kinds of canes made. And most people have said, no, my non-electronic cane works just great. Thank you very much. You know, and so listening to the people who are experiencing the disabilities becomes a whole issue.
Absolutely. And kind of what's driving that, you know, sometimes the perception is that there's a problem when maybe one doesn't really exist. So there's a conflict there. That's really fun. This topic is one of my favorites because it's really fun to explore this, especially when you're talking about, you know, with hearing impairments in the ASL community.
Right.
You know, there's so much there. So if this is a topic that interests any of my students, and you're not sure how to approach it, definitely, you know, reach out to me. And obviously, you can reach out to the libraries too, and we'll help guide you to find it. It's sometimes like a little bit of a jump because you're not sure right off the surface, but this is a cool one to explore.
And that's, and that's why I say, start off big and scroll through to see if something jumps out at you that you're interested in a way that you might not have thought about it. I found this article really fascinating because screen readers in the 1980s cost $50,000 for a screen reader, something that we can have on our smartphone now.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. The other thing in this article that I found, well, two things. I'm going to read this sentence. Disability technology can be so quotidian that non-disabled users don't even notice. GPS and spell check, so ubiquitous for so many people, are technologies that assist me with dyslexia. Students, what did I just say? Right? Does anybody know what quotidian means?
Google knows.
I Googled it to make sure that I understood it. I thought I knew what it meant, and ubiquitous too. So my point is, you're going to run into vocabulary that you might never have heard before. Who goes around saying it's quotidian? What quotidian is, it means it's every day. You find it everywhere. All right. So most of us would say it's something we see every day, but this author decided to use quotidian. That's a great word. So expand your vocabulary. And the other part to this I found fascinating, and as soon as I read it, I went, duh, about voicemail, text-to-speech devices, which all of our databases have text-to-speech. So if you do like to listen to things instead of, and while you're reading along, that's a really cool thing. Or if you need to use it due to visual impairment. But this is about the text-to-speech technologies that are manufactured and the lack of non-white voices in most of the apps.
What?
The lack of non-white voices. It says, Mr. Williams says that the disability technology often reflects biases about race, gender, and ideals of what should be normal. There are soap dispensers that don't recognize black and brown skin.
Stop. Wow.
And automated captioning can't always handle accented English. And it goes on. And so
that's amazing. What a cool thing to stumble upon. That's right. Awesome. Yes.
And one of the really well-known voice, it's called Proloquo to Go. Doesn't have a single speech option in US English in a voice that uses speech samples from an adult woman of color. The only one that is racialized is Saul, a hip hop voice. So.
That's fantastic. And so there's an integration there just from that particular article that you grabbed between this, the assistive technologies, and then focusing in on verbal communication and nonverbal communication as well. And then tying that also into intercultural. My gosh, there's a lot there.
Yes, so that is, and it's from the New York Times, August 2020. So it's a very current article, and I'd be happy to share that with anyone.
I suppose you're going to touch on this, so I don't want to, if you have a schedule that you're following, but I know that the students will be eager for we talked about it a little bit in class the other day, but knowing what's academic versus the extra sources,
Sure.
I'm sure you're going to touch on that, but I just want to make sure that it gets in there.
Absolutely. I'm going to go back to my library's homepage. If anybody is interested in becoming a librarian, I'd be happy to talk to you about that too. As you can see, I am a curious person. So As I help you, you help me because I learn stuff about what you are being taught and what you're learning. So I think it's fascinating. All right, let's go back. LibGuides right here are lots of, I'm using the Introduction to Research LibGuide, but there are lots of them in here. And LibGuides are resources that the librarians put together, and they will offer you books that we have in the library, tell you which databases we think you should go to. But right now, oh, that's not what I want to type in there. I'll jump right into this one. Identifying scholarly journals and articles. A scholarly journal is also called an academic peer-reviewed or refereed journal. What a scholarly journal is the articles are usually studies or research, and they are done by people in the field for people in the field. So the American Psychological Association has tons of scholarly journals that are written by psychologists or people with MSWs, for sociologists, for psychologists, and they contain specialized language for the field. Gretchen knows specialized language in the field of communication. And so she would be able to understand a scholarly journal from a peer-reviewed journal on communication more so than I could. I would have to get my dictionary out of communication terms to understand it. But they usually have lots of citations, are very formal, and they're not very easy to get published in. Then there's news and general interest. And that's exactly what it is. Newspapers. There are different kinds of newspapers. There's a big difference between the Post Journal and the New York Times, or the Wall Street Journal and Olean Times Herald. They all have their place. The local papers concentrate on local news along with a little bit of national and international. But someone like the New York Times has a huge bureau of people who specialize just in one thing. Education department or government or lifestyle. I mean, they're very specified. And then popular, and these are general interest periodicals. And then popular productions like popular magazines or like People, stuff like that. They can also be on a subject area. There's a lot of popular trade magazines for teachers, not necessarily research. They might mention a research project, according to so-and-so, this was really a good idea to put into the classroom. And so then you could take that according to this research and go find the research if you wanted to. But they're not as scholarly, even though they're meant for an educated consumer. And here are some examples of that. So in the database world, sometimes it's difficult to figure out what you're looking at. You always want to see if there's an abstract. An abstract is just the summary. The summary of the article is always at the top. And in a scholarly journal, you really never have to guess who wrote it. Their credentials are right up there. The name of the article or the author, along with their credentials, what university they work for, or et cetera. So those are just real big visual clues of what you're looking at when you're in a database. Popular and less scholarly, you might have to look a little bit more, especially if it's a newswire. Sometimes it's hard to figure out who wrote it, and a lot of times there won't be a name associated with it. It will be the news organization would be considered the author. Any questions on that?
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I was just going to write a little note for my picture, but I'll just chime in and say that I am dropping the links as you discuss them in the chat. So if anyone wants to follow along as we go, I'll just continue to do that and let you stay on your mojo. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'm going to go back to the library's homepage. So according to the 7 steps to the research process, all right, we did the identify and develop your topic, find background information. We did that in Credo. Use catalog to find books and media. Now, with these topics, and I'm going to recommend some books for you. You are not expected to read an entire book from cover to cover. I'm going to show you one of the books, and my light keeps going off. At least I'm saving energy here. This one right here, if anyone is choosing the toy one in gender, this one is Gender Typing of Children's Toys, How Early Play Experiences Impact Development. And there's things on language in here. So this is a really good book. Alone Together, Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other. Again, you would just flip through it or go to the back into the index and find the section that is relevant to your argument, to your position. This is another really good one. And then Language, the Cultural Tool, obviously for the one about inner culture. And finally, my favorite cover, Cinderella Ate My Daughter. Dispatches from the front lines of the new girly girl culture. So those are just ones that I grabbed. I'm going to show you how you can actually search the catalog. All right, so from the library's homepage, you're going to want to click on Search Primo, because that is the whole search engine for the catalog, as well as SUNY. And now I'm going to sign into Primo. Once you sign into the system, there's a lot of cool things you can do. Now my name is there. If I click on it, there's my library card. It'll show me all the books that I have out, my loans, all of my fines, of which I have many right now. Oh, look at that. I'm a bad librarian. They're sitting on my kitchen table. I will bring them back. So you can see, if you know you've got a book out or whatever, you can look there. But you can also pin things as you go along in the databases, as well as in the catalog. This is a folder that I made yesterday for another class on happiness. So all of these books, and so once you close, as you're searching, you can pin things and it'll be here. It's a great way to keep track of what you're using. But again, I just did a really big search on happiness, or wrong class. Let's see, what did I do? Yeah, actually, you know what? I lied. I did not pre-search any of these books. I just went and got them. So that's why I'm thinking, how did I find these books? Because I put gender, I put more specific things in here. Let's do that. So again, this is just a really big search right here. If I put gender stereotype. And here we go, children, television, sexual stereotyping, gender myths, how they hurt our children, et cetera, et cetera. And so these are books that we have in the library. If It's in Jamestown, I'll say it. We also share the catalog with Cattaraugus, but that's not a problem. If you find one that you want, they'll send it here, or you might already be on the Olean campus. And if you want something from Jamestown, we would do that. So books are good. There's lots of information in the printed form here. Any questions? Yep.
I do have a question. So on this note, since we're in a new era, it's my jersey coming out. So a student finds a book that they want to check out, then the process of checking it out is they click on it to put a hold on it.
Yep.
And then where do they go to get the book?
To the actual physical library on campus.
And then just go to the desk there, the circulation desk, and
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that sound
And
good?
if students are not comfortable actually walking into the building, we do curbside pickup now too. So
oh, excellent.
Yeah. Any way we can get the items in your hands is fine with us.
Great. So, and certainly if they had any questions about the process, they can call, come, or write. You have that awesome texting tool too.
Right.
That you can chat with a librarian.
I saw you use it the other day.
It was wonderful. I loved it.
I saw your name pop up and I tried to get it and Maggie was faster than I was. I will show you that. Let's see. Trying to get a new tab here. I closed out my window. I do that all the time. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. We all do that.
Okay. So that was books and media. Databases. Another database that I want to show you. All right, so from the library's homepage, we're going to go to databases, and it's an A to Z list. And you can scroll down through all of the subject areas, or you can choose one. I actually went to current issues. And here's opposing viewpoints. You can scroll down and see all the different topic areas, or you can search what you want to look for. And in here, I put, yes. If you look as you type, it will give you some different areas, gender specific, gender roles. And the first thing that comes up are academic journals, and then viewpoints, and then down here, news, and it only shows 3. So if you click on news, it'll show you all 385. And again, I just did a big search. I can now go back and say, okay, there's a lot more in here than I thought there might be. Gender specific toys. All parents want to buy children this Christmas is a gender neutral toy. There were, I don't know if you remember, it wasn't that long ago that Target decided to non-genderize their toy aisles. And it was a big uproar.
Yes, there should definitely be news on that switch. And this is lovely. I actually, when you were saying about Dale saying, oh, I haven't seen that before, when you were digging into the news, I was thinking, oh, now this is a new way. I could get lost in there for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So the more specific you want, sometimes I always recommend starting off big and then seeing what's there and then looking for keywords, to focus on.
Absolutely. And I'm going to interject there too.
Yes.
As I tell my students, and we had a big discussion about their writing the other day, I want this to be something you want to do. Okay. So if you're interested in something and it doesn't 100% fit into these broad topics, let's have a conversation with me, because I want to make sure that you are investigating something that's not only useful to your academic career, but you're personally driven by, because that's kind of the point of inquiry, isn't it? That we're learning new things. So I think dig in, find something that motivates you, that's exciting to learn about, and we'll make it work. So.
Absolutely. I'm not even doing this paper and I got excited doing the research. So there's a lot here that I would want to choose from. The next one I'm going to do is the Me Too movement. I'm going to go back. So where we just were, and I'm sure there's, you know what? I never even looked in here for that yesterday. I'm going to do it. Yeah, there's tons. And so you obviously would want to focus that, because there's 2,000 academic journal articles that have Me Too in it. But you could put Me Too in history, or, focus it a little bit more. That's exactly what I did in Primo. If I go back, and in Primo, all right, I showed you how to find books in here, but you can also search all of the databases. I don't always recommend doing this. I like to go to individual databases because typically our topics have plenty to look at. But in Primo, again, I just did, actually I played around with it a little bit to come up with this search. So if anybody's interested in doing the Me Too movement, this is where you can get tricky. I discovered that I was missing out a lot of articles about Me Too and women's rights because I kept using sexual assault. And so when I added or rape, it opened up more things. And so that's a good lesson. Don't keep using the same terms over and over. Try to come up with some synonyms or other ways of looking at it. Oh, you lie. I did too get it yesterday. Oh, you know what I did? See, here I talked to myself. I didn't change it to articles.
No, that's a great point too. If something doesn't pop up on the first go around, is there a different way to say it? And I think, I don't know, this is totally anecdotal and not based in any sort of research that I found, but I think our students are kind of good at this, being part of that Google culture, like just shift it around a little bit. So if you get nothing, believe us when we're saying there's tons of information out there on these topics. You should find something. So great point.
And so this, what's trending, sexual assault and exploratory studies, social media coverage of teen sexual assaults. When I was doing that before, with Me Too in there, it didn't come up. And so take away, put it in, try different things. And I learned, and I was shocked to learn this, and I shouldn't be shocked. I've studied things like this, but the first rape crisis center wasn't opened until 1970. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And you make such a good point too. Taking Me Too out of the search is very important, especially for this topic, because Me Too didn't exist until, what is the date? That was a 2017 article that you had. So 2018. I don't know the first date, but.
I think it actually started 2015 was the
Oh,
first
okay.
recognition of it, and Alyssa Milano really put it out there.
She did, yeah. So that would make so much sense because we're looking for a historical reference. It wasn't a thing before that. So
Right.
Wonderful.
And so just to recap that, I put history of media coverage and sexual assault or rape. That's a lot of words, but it was actually a pretty effective search. When you want historical references, it makes sense. What I was actually trying to find, and I ran out of time, was to find a timeline, because I know one exists. And so I'm going to dig around a little bit more because, I'm thinking about Anita Hill and, what happened from Anita Hill to, and on. There's certain flashpoints in the history of talking about sexual assault up till today.
Absolutely.
So I know somebody's made one of those timelines, and I will find it. So I'm going to open, which one did I open? I opened up this one. I'm going to open up one that might not, myths and headlines. This is where we were talking about how do you know what you're looking at? The article itself doesn't come right up. I have to go into another database. So I'm going to click on any of those databases and the article will come up. Nope, not in that one. Let's try that one. Unless I picked, you know what, I picked one that's too new. Let's go back. Let's open that one again. Okay, so here's the actual article. Criminology, Criminal Justice, Law and Society. That is a scholarly journal. Here's the abstract and then the full text. And then it starts to get in, this is a study. And it looks like a really good study about rape myths on sexual assault survivors. But it tells you who the authors are. And if I click on them and tell me what else they've published at, I scroll down. I'm sorry, this is a long article. And here are their references. It's a good idea to look at the references and you can actually track them down yourself if you wanted to. I always say you don't have to reinvent the wheel, especially at this level of our academic pursuit. Use sources that have already been identified as being credible and usable. So here's a whole list right here. The other thing is volume and issue. That magazines don't have volumes and issues typically. They usually have a date only. So volume and issue will tell you it's in a journal. Over here, you can email it to yourself. You can print it. You can send it to your Google Drive if that's what you're using. So again, a great way to save your information and have it all in one spot. I like to just throw things into, create a folder in Drive and throw everything in there.
And I'm going to highlight that and say, do that, because what's going to happen is this process, I love research. I love getting lost in it, but that's exactly what happens. You can get lost in it and go, I had this great source and now I can't find it. So please do either grab the link to the source or go ahead and start a Google Drive folder. Do something to make sure if you found something that had a tidbit of information that you want to save, email it to yourself. Send yourself the link, Google Drive it, whatever you have to do, just make sure you're making note of that, because you don't want a few days from now going, I know I found it, but I don't remember what it was called and I can't find it again.
And I want to remind everyone that the link that you're saving is not the one in the address bar, because that is not a permanent link. Since you are going through what's called a proxy server to get to the databases, that changes. The link that you want to save, if you choose to do that, is this one right at the top. When I click on, I'm going to do that again because this is so important. I'm going to click on all options, the 3 little dots, and it gives me all the save options. When you see that chain, that is the permanent link. So that is the one that you would want to copy and save, not the one up in the address bar. I've had so many students lose things that way because they weren't familiar with the permanent link. Okay, so I think you're getting the hang of how to use the databases and which databases to go to. Once again, I run out of time, and I'd love to show you tons more. But let me just say on the social media one and new communication technologies, that there's so much written on that. And as you play with the search terms, you're going to be in the same databases. Look in the humanities databases, some of the Science Direct, which a lot of people might not think, oh, I'm Science Direct and communication. There's some really good information in Science Direct. And also the ethical communication one, this is going to crack you up. I found in a database that I love, it's called Environmental Studies in Context. Down here. Who'd have thunk that ethical communication would be found in something called environmental studies? But the more I thought about it, because this is one of my favorite databases, sure, it went more into environmental ethics communication, and it went into business ethical communications, and how, I mean, think about the coal industry saying we've got clean coal and all of that manipulative kind of language, that's in here. I know it's time to go. And in here, it points out in science communication, and so it's actually a little bit more focused, but I just wanted to point out one of my favorite databases that you might not think of for this paper.
That's a great point. And again, you know, if that's your gig, if that's your jam, that you are an environmental person, you're a hot pursuit there, go that direction. It doesn't have to, you know, fit into a formula here. I want it to be interesting to you. So think around these topics a little bit and how you can, you know, really find something that sparks your interest. Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
You're welcome. Are there any questions from students? I see some, oh, I wasn't monitoring chat.
Oh, that's okay.
Great.
I've just been dropping all those links in there that you were talking about.
Beautiful.
And we certainly will reconnect on it. But I think that the students have a wealth of paths now to choose to embark on this research project.
And let me just reiterate, my contact information is on the library's homepage. There's a staff directory. Any student is welcome to contact me directly through email, phone, chat, whatever.
Excellent.
And all of my other colleagues too. They're just as nice.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, guys. If you could open up your video and open up your mics, please, and tell Cynthia thank you for joining us today. You're going to make our writing so much stronger. We appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.